gotcha. Good stuff.
Good evening. I'm Lorna Trent, District Chief with Virginia Beach Fire Department. On this day of remembrance, we are showing our support of the victims, survivors, and heroes of that day. We will begin our ceremony with the national anthem performed by the Ocean Lakes High School student performers. We ask you to stand in body and or in spirit. At this time, please join me in welcoming the Mayor of Virginia Beach, the Honorable Robert M. Bobby Dyer.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us to observe May 31st, marking 4 years since 12 kind souls were tragically taken from our community, as well as many who were wounded, both physically and emotionally. We want to thank our members of council, our elected officials, but we also especially want to thank all of the family members and survivors who are here on this solemn occasion. First, I'd like to say how pleased I was to know there were numerous events held, both public and city-sponsored, that were organized to honor the victims of 531. While I regret I could not attend each and every one, the fact is so many people in our community wanted to do something to honor them in a very heartwarming way. To all of the people throughout the city who played a part in organizing and sponsoring an event, I thank you from the bottom of our hearts. This is the first time our ceremony is taking place on our municipal campus. And I want to thank those who spent countless hours and gave themselves in planning it with such thoughtful consideration. 4 years ago today, this city was rocked by unspeakable tragedy. The damage inflicted was physically, mentally, and emotionally immeasurable. It's difficult to imagine something like that happened until it does. And when it did happen, it was even more difficult to see a path forward out of the immediate darkness of grief and sadness. But with our grief, there is brightness and hope. Even in the moments, the days, and the weeks immediately following the tragedy, a glimmer of who we are as a community began to shine through. From our first responders to city staff, from various departments to volunteers who stepped in to assist in whatever capacity was needed, there was hope. The vibrancy and the dedication that Virginia Beach, its people, broke through. We saw the people of the city step up and give of themselves in so many ways to help carry our collective burden. On that final day in May and the days that followed, while burdened with the pain and grief and shock from such a tragedy, we also began to see a sliver of light. Light symbolized in the spirit, the generosity, and the caring from people throughout our city and from beyond our borders. We gained strength that comes with having navigated through a terrible storm together, while continuing to mourn those 12 people that we loved and respected and think of today and every day. We believe that it's vital that we do not lose faith in humanity because of tragedy, but as we go forward into our future, preserve our own humanity as well. And finally, to those of you who experienced the loss of a coworker or a family member or witnessed the tragedy, we say to you, we understand that this has been and continues to be a heavy burden for you to carry. And while no one can take away all you have gone through, we can assure you that your loved one's name and the memory of them will never, ever be forgotten. Their names and our memories of them will live on in perpetuity. Thank you all for being here this evening, and may God bless each and every one of you. Thank you.
I'm Brian Ricardo. I'm a sergeant with the Virginia Beach Police Department. On May 31st, 2019, I was assigned to Police Special Operations, where I still serve today. I was working as the lead supervisor for an event that was being held at the oceanfront for Warrior Weekend called Jump for a Purpose. It was a set of skydives. They were supposed to go all day long, but they ended around 2 o'clock. For some reason, instead of staying at the oceanfront, I decided to go back to my office, which is Police Special Operations, literally less than 5 minutes from here, depending on whether or not you catch light. I was supposed to meet my wife for dinner that night before I went back to the oceanfront for the before concert skydives. At 4 o'clock, I was talking to her on the phone when she said she would not be able to meet me for dinner because she had to work late. As we were talking, I overheard on the police radio there had been a report of shots fired, people injured in Building 2. I hung up with her immediately, drove from the office to the Municipal Center. As I was driving, I heard a fellow sergeant call out on the radio, "I'm going in." I immediately knew that sergeant was going in by himself. As I arrived here, I parked right in front of Building 1, put on my ballistic armor and helmet, grabbed my go bag and rifle. I ran down that sidewalk right there, and I went through that door that used to be right there where a set of stairs led up. And supposedly you could never go in through that door, but that day that door opened for me. As I entered the building, I could hear gunshots upstairs, and then over the radio, a report that an officer had been shot. I made my way through a large office that was right inside that doorway. Got to the hallway and had to make a decision whether I was going to go right or left. For some reason, I decided to go left. I climbed a stairwell and was met by a SWAT officer who was standing on the second floor stairwell. When I got there, he told me that the 2 officers that were remaining in the hallway had to be reloaded because they had ran out of rounds. He asked me if I had rounds in my go bag. I said, yeah. He said, we got to go down this hallway and meet them. We made our way down the hallway. The fire alarm was sounding. Hallway was full of smoke. Flashing lights from the fire alarms were blinding me. We stayed in the hallway as we had the suspect isolated until members of our SWAT team arrived and took our positions over. As I'm normally embedded with the SWAT team as a tactical crisis negotiator, I stayed with them, providing rear cover due to the number of doors in the hallway. During those few minutes, while SWAT developed a hasty plan to enter the hallway and take the suspect, I learned that there were several people barricaded in the second floor office. I cleared one entire side of the second floor by myself, That's where I found Keith. After locating them and getting them to open the barricaded door, I led them out, evacuating them just prior to the SWAT team entering the hallway, taking the suspect into custody. After the suspect was removed from the building, SWAT team cleared all the offices on the second floor. Everyone they located were sent to the hallway where they met me, and I directed them down a stairwell. As each of them entered the hallway, I got their attention by yelling at them to run to me. As we met, I saw their faces. I looked closely into each of their eyes. After the building was evacuated and cleared, I was directed to remain in the building with 10 officers that I selected from the initial responders. Together, we provided security for the top 3 floors. We stayed in the building for over 4 hours after it was declared clear. While we remained in the building, we heard cell phones and desk phones ringing, sounds of computers, HVAC system. Watched as lights of the building turned on and off, kind of like they're doing right now. As I walked around the 3 floors to check on my officers, I made it a point to stop and touch each of your family members as I contemplated their lives and you. When we were finally advised that we could leave the building, I was the last initial responder to walk out. I needed to ensure that each of my officers was out of the building prior to turning the building over to investigators. I do not share the story to make myself out to be anything special or seek recognition. I did my duty, what I was trained to do, what I feel you expected of me to do, and more importantly, what I expected from myself. I share this because we all have a collective experience from that day. Although our experiences come from different perspectives or perceptions, we're bound together by this experience. And in this way, we are a community of survivors. But when we think about it, our experiences branch out to our families, friends, co-workers who were not there that day, other city employees of the various departments, city leadership, our neighbors, our city. When you reflect on this, you realize that so many people were impacted by this unimaginable day. The response from our whole community was so impactful. I hope you remember the temporary memorial outside police headquarters and the many people that were gathered around it, just because they needed to be there. I remember it. I share this story because it is human to ask why. I will assure you that I have asked why for hours, days, weeks, months, years after May 31st. I struggle to understand why this is the most impactful event in my professional life, not only as a retired naval officer, but also as a Virginia Beach police officer. In my search for answers why, my thoughts travel through very dark and dangerous places. At night when I was asleep, I saw your faces, the faces of those who were taken from us. I questioned each decision I made and every order I gave. When I felt like I had 1,000 pounds sitting on my chest and could not breathe, and when I had an anxiety attack in one of my favorite places, a Hallmark card store, I asked why. After friends, family, and very close peers told me something was wrong with me, despite me repeatedly responding I was fine, I finally realized I needed to realign my compass. I was dangerously off course. In that help, I found and continue to find my why, my purpose. You were my why then, and you're my why now. You're why I continue to come to work every day and exercise the privilege it is to be a police officer in Virginia Beach. You are why I sought out to be a member of the 531 Memorial Committee and have pushed at times emotionally to achieve the goal of honoring those who are giving so much to this city. Each of them and you are what makes the city of Virginia Beach live and breathe. Without their work and your work, the city would not function. I don't feel comfortable giving advice to anybody, especially those who are seeking to understand why. I can only provide you with a thought. Give yourself some grace. And while you're asking why, ensure your questioning does not debilitate you and harm others. From what I've learned about those who were lost and injured that day, they would have wanted all of us to continue to live and remember them as they lived. I'm truly humbled and honored to be here tonight and to serve on the 531 Memorial Committee. In serving, it helps me answer why, especially those nights when I lie awake thinking about that day, when I'm alone in my thoughts, and as we move towards the dedication of that memorial site. Those of you who know me know that I often use quotes to get a point across. So to close tonight, here's a quote that I saw one time and I thought would be appropriate. The strongest people are the ones who are still kind after the world tore them apart. Stay strong, overcome. We will never forget.
Candles illuminate and comfort as they help us honor our grief and reflect on the lives of our loved ones. Keeping a light burning in remembrance of those taken from us signifies that their memory still lives on and burns bright. Mayor Dyer will now light the remembrance flame.
May this light guide our city toward healing.
No matter how solitary one flame is, it is never alone or lonely, for its light knows no boundaries. We spread the flame by having members of City Council light their candle and then share their light with you. We ask you to share your light with those around you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm City Manager Patrick Dehaney. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here today in Remembrance. The memories of these 12 beloved family members, colleagues, and friends will forever live in our hearts and minds. We remember them tonight and always, and continue to honor their contributions to the city and the world. We honor Lakita C. Brown, Ryan Keith Cox, Tara Welch Gallagher, Mary Louise Mary Lou Kristinger Gale, Alexander Mikhail Gusev, Joshua O. Hardy, Michelle Missy Langer, Richard Rich Nettleton, Catherine Ann Marie Lusich Nixon, Christopher Kelly Rapp, Herbert Ray Burt Snelling Jr., Robert Thomas Bobby Williams. Let us continue to lift up survivors, and may all of those affected and still healing be filled with strength and love. Now please join me in a moment of silence.
Good evening. I'm Acting Deputy Chief John Bianco with Virginia Beach EMS. This evening, we gathered here to mark the solemn occasion of the 4-year anniversary of the tragic events that unfolded in the building and areas adjacent to us. We not only remembered the lives lost, but also those invisible scars many of our first responders and city members who worked in Building 2 that day still realize. Sergeant, thank you for sharing your experience. Many of us remember what we were doing, who we were with, and where we were during incidents of national significance, 9/11, the Oklahoma City bombing, along with significant incidents that affect our city, the Good Friday jet crash, the recent EF3 tornado, just to name a couple. I, like Sergeant Ricardo and many of our other public safety team members, responded to the initial call received on May 31st, 2019, and I remember. Initially, a dispatch for a gunshot patient outside our municipal center. As additional calls continued, the scene grew in complexity. That day, we set out to do what each of us have been trained to do, what we have practiced to do, to help and protect our citizens. Regrettably, that day, 11 innocent employees and 1 innocent citizen were taken from us too soon. Their absence has left an indelible void in our community, a void that will forever remind us of the profound impact of that fateful day, along with the families and the teams that are forever changed by this senseless act of violence. However, there would have been more lives lost if not for the heroic acts of employees within Building 2, our 911 telecommunicators directing callers and public safety resources, the law enforcement entry teams directing survivors and engaging the threat, the EMS, rescue, and fire members in the building and outside providing medical care, triage, treatment, and transportation to definitive care. Fred Rogers said, "When I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, 'Look for the helpers.' You will always find people who are helping." These employees and volunteers were the helpers, and their efforts were heroic on May 31st. These helpers are why there are many survivors and not more lives lost. We recognize the survivors and responders that have their scars from this day too. Spiritual, psychological, emotional scars, similar to the scars our physical bodies yield during the healing processes after a physical injury, but not as easily seen. Rabindranath Tagore, the first Indian to receive the Nobel Prize, wrote, "When I stand before thee at the day's end, thou shalt see my scars and know that I had my wounds and also my healing." Yet in the face of this darkness, we have witnessed the indomitable spirit of hope, unity, and recovery that defines our community. Today, we gathered not only to remember those we lost, those that responded, those that survived, but also to celebrate the resolve and strength that have assisted us through these difficult times. The spirit began with a makeshift memorial and has grown to include the VB Strong Center, private and community commemorations, and now the design and site of a permanent memorial that serves as a testament to our commitment to honor the memory of these 12 innocent victims and provide a place of solace and reflection for all that visit. This memorial will stand as a symbol of the unbreakable bonds that unite us, reminding us that even our darkest moments, we find the courage to come together, support one another, and heal as a community. As we close tonight and continue to reflect on the past 4 years, let us acknowledge the pain and the grief that still lingers, and also bear witness to the progress we have made. The journey of healing is different for each person, and it may take time, but together we are moving forward. Our strength lies in the compassion we show one another, the empathy we extend, and the unwavering support we offer as we navigate this path of healing and recovery together. Let us recommit ourselves to building a community that embraces hope and unity. Let us continue to honor the memory of those we lost by fostering a culture of peace, understanding, compassion, and respect. May the future memorial site be a place where we find solace, where we find the strength to carry on, and where we find the inspiration to create a brighter future. While we lit our candles in their memory, we now task these 12 blue lights to carry their legacy through the night. As the lights come on, please extinguish your candles. I urge each and every one of you to continue supporting one another, to each reach out to those in need, and to each of you to be the source of light in times of darkness. Cheryl Strayed, a New York Times bestseller, said, "The place of true healing is a fierce place. It is a giant place. It's a place of monstrous beauty and endless dark and glimmering light. And you have to work really, really, really hard to get there, but you can do it. With the love for Virginia Beach, together, we will do it. Together, we will overcome, and together, we will heal."